Hi, this is Alice and day 4 of my tapping and healthier eating video journey. Today I'd like to talk about fear. Fear of being safe in a womanly body. Fear holds many of us back and it doesn't actually keep us safe. Just as being fat doesn't actually keep us safe. In fact, it hurts us because of its effect on our hearts and our livers and other internal organs. And being fat doesn't actually keep us safe from men who mean us harm, as fat women have been assaulted too, and if you're fat, it makes it harder to run away. In addition, holding on to fear can actually keep us scared and unable to react to threats in an effective manner. So let's tap together today on more fears, and another time we'll tap on what to replace those fears with. So let's start by checking in with the intensity of your fear. Imagine that you're at your ideal healthy weight and out for a walk or at a pub or at a club, dancing by yourself or with friends. How afraid are you? Take a breath. Close your eyes if you need to. Give it a number between 0 and 10, with 0 being I don't have any fear at all and 10 being it's intense. Then take another breath and notice if you feel this fear anywhere in particular in your body. If you do, then notice the sensations associated with this fear. Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Does it have a texture? Is it hot? Is it cold? Does it have a size? If so, just notice that. And if not, no worries, just notice. Then take a breath. Take a sip of water. And make an intention to release some of your fears while you tap along with mine, the fears of some of the other women that I've worked with, and the fears that I share with some of the women that I've worked with. So even though I have all this fear, I choose to love and accept myself anyway. I choose to love and accept myself anyway. Take another breath. Even though I suffer from all these fears, that keep me from having the life that I want, I forgive myself. Take another breath. Even though I've held on to all these fears for so many years, I'm open to the possibility that I can let them go. Take another breath. And we'll just tap through the points and tap on some of these fears. Top of the head. All these fears of unwanted attention. And then the third eye. These fears of unwanted sexual attention. Take a breath. Above the nose. This fear of being humiliated. Side of the eye. This fear of being hurt. Underneath the eye. This fear of being humiliated. This fear of being teased under the nose. This fear of being teased. This fear of being threatened. And then underneath your collarbones, this fear of being violated. And then on your breastbone, this fear of being laughed at. And then just underneath your breasts on your rib cage, this fear of being dumped. Underneath your armpits, this fear of being rejected. Wrists together, this fear of being used. And behind your ears, just on the skull, this fear of not being safe. this fear of not being safe. Now take a breath, check in, and notice if anything's shifted or if any new fears have come up. And we're going to tap along and do another round. Third eye. This fear of the dark. This fear of the dark. This fear of a certain individual. And I encourage you to say his or her name. This fear of a certain individual. Side of the eye, this fear of being rejected. This fear of being rejected. This fear that if I say no, I won't be liked. This fear that if I say no, I won't be liked. This fear that if I say no, I will be attacked. This fear that if I say no, I will be attacked. This fear that I can't protect myself. This fear that I can't protect myself. And for those who were abused as children in particular, this fear that no one will protect me. This fear that no one will protect me. On the breastbone, the heart chakra, this fear that it's not okay to say no. This fear that it's not okay to say no. Underneath the nipples, this fear that someone will think that I'm asking for it. This fear that someone will think that I'm asking for it. Underneath the nipples, this fear that if I say no, I won't be liked. This fear that if I say no, I won't be liked. This fear that losing weight will give me enough confidence to leave a bad relationship. This fear that if I lose weight, I will have more confidence and want to leave a bad relationship. This fear that if I lose weight, I'll want to leave a bad job. This fear that if I lose weight, I'll want to lose a bad job. Top of the head, this fear of this thing that I don't want to face. This fear of this thing that I don't want to face. All this fear about all the frightening things that happened to me in the past. All this fear of all the frightening things that happened to me in the past. This fear of setting boundaries. This fear of setting boundaries. This fear of saying no and not being heard. This fear of saying no and not being heard. I deserve to be heard. I deserve to be heard. I deserve to speak clearly and firmly. I deserve to speak clearly and firmly. I deserve to set boundaries. I deserve to set boundaries, and I deserve to have these boundaries respected. All this remaining fear underneath the nipples, in every fat cell in my body, all this fear in my breasts, all this fear in my breasts, all this fear in my vagina, all this fear in my vagina, all this fear that I've been holding on to. I choose to let this fear go. I choose to let this fear go. I'm willing to let this fear go. I'm willing to let this fear go. It's time to let this fear go. It's time to let this fear go. Goodbye to this fear that hasn't served me in a really long time. Goodbye to this fear that hasn't served me for a really long time. Predators look for people who look like victims. Predators look for people who look like victims. I choose to no longer be a victim. I choose to no longer be a victim. So take a deep breath. Whoops. Check in with yourself and notice how the fear is. And if one or more of the statements that we tapped on today brought up more fear or really resonate with you, then I encourage you to do a round just on that one statement. And if you have any questions or concerns or comments, please feel free to email me at alice@tappingdetective.com. And if you have any questions about tapping, you can do the same, or you can look on my website, which is tappingdetective.com. Thank you so much for watching, and happy tapping, and thanks again.